Amy, if she wants to do a competitive cheer, and as long as she's feeling good.
Should have or three.
Yeah, you still has a bar.
He's only got one.
What?
Monday. Cases, of course, is alarming, particularly when we're now seeing children.
Hello.
Hi, Ann.
Hey, Bill.
How you doing?
Not bad. How about you?
Okay.
Hey, Tim.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Doing well, thank you.
Shut my door.
Okay, I was gonna ask that. Okay. So, whatever. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And then, hey, for, well, you can do it. I don't get- I- Bam, 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 bam. No, we'll just introduce him and have him explain.
Oh my gosh, Josh. That picture is right front and center right now.
I know.
You are. Hmm? I thought you, I literally just looked at that picture and thought that was you sitting there like that for a second. Like,
Perfect still life.
yeah. Still waiting. Are we waiting for Steve and Jamie still?
I think so.
Where's Jamie? Oh, and Jeremy. Because there he is. Don't tell him I forgot him.
Hello?
Hello?
What's going on?
Hey, Jeremy.
Hello?
Jeremy, Ann just forgot about you.
Oh, you Bill.
Ah, it happens all the time. I'm a forgettable guy.
Not at all. I can't believe I did, but that's beside the point, Bill. He said, don't tell him I forgot. Because I said, I don't see Steve. I think everybody's here, but I don't see Steve here. And then you popped in just right when I said that. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about Jeremy. Don't tell him I said that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is Joel Kestenberg from Friedman, just making sure you can hear me.
Okay, sure, Joel, we can.
Okay, perfect.
I got it. Oh, I printed it. I'm gonna run and grab a print off that I did. I printed it. Sorry, just remembered I printed something. I think Steve's on. Who's Steve? You're not 2364, are you? I'm just gonna mute that one.
Oh, it looks like he's joining now.
Okay, I was gonna say I saw him come in, but
Good evening, everyone.
hey, Steve.
Hello.
Okay, I think the gang's all here. Let me just, there's a couple of people that are not muted, just so I don't get background noise. Okay, everybody, just remember you have the ability to unmute yourself if you are muted. I try to, if you don't mute yourself when you come in, people that are not on the board, I do try to hit the mute button just so we don't get background noise. But you can unmute yourself when the time is appropriate for public comment. Okay, sorry, I gotta find the share screen. All right. Okay, I think we're ready. All right, let's call this regular board meeting to order on August 9th at 7:04. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands,
For which it
one
stands,
nation,
one nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Let's pull up the agenda. Okay, do we have the agenda up now?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, with that, let's start with roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Here.
Miss McGuire,
Here.
Mr. Spencer,
I'm here.
Mr. Palmer,
Here.
Mr. Sutton here, Mr. Worcester,
Present.
Miss Richards.
Here. Okay, do we have any agenda additions this evening? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Let's get my timer out. Just remember, first public comment, we ask that you direct it to just items that are on the agenda this evening. If you would like to speak again, please use the raise hand feature. There is a second public comment at the end of the meeting as well, if you're going to want to wait until then. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment at the beginning?
Yes, I would.
Okay,
Yeah, Brian Haley, Ascota. I noticed on under other, the Beckett and Raider. This concerns the 5-year recreation master plan, so that's fine to talk about, right?
yes, it's on the agenda this evening. Mhm.
Okay, so just I hope that board members are becoming more aware that if we do not have fertile field in that 5-year recreation master plan, we cannot be eligible for the finest grant program I've ever seen put together, and that's the Michigan DNR, the trust fund grant, which we've used to success of, let's see, $2,236,000, according to the DNR, over the years that we've gotten from that trust fund. So we're highly eligible for it. Just want to make, now that we've had FERTA become disposable, these two documents do not comport. In fact, they'd be arguing against each other. And I think you get my full meaning on that, because you have it disposable, and that's basically an in-house thing, but your intent is clear on that, one way or the other. So that we cannot be involved with this DNR grant funding if FERTA is not made whole in the Michigan DNR Parks and Recreation grant plan, or for our Parks and Recreation plan. So I'm asking you to revisit these things and think things through much clearer. I would be happy to avail myself to any special meeting. I think it would take a half an hour, and we could hash through all of this and make sure we all get on the same page so that we can move forward properly. This is the best granting program going. The supervisor knows this full well. She's been involved in these things. But I was astounded about how successful we are. And I will be having a talk with the DNR, their program director, later this week. And not to bring up just this stuff, but how we can make ourselves even more available through the granting process. We rate out high here in Ascota because they take into criteria, and you look at the criteria, we hit on all these things. And I'll end on this also. It's very important that there's only a few school districts in the entire state that can apply for these same grants. Oh yes, Oscoda is one of those. So anyway, I want us to think things through really clearly and bring it all out in the open as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, anybody else for the first public comment? I do not see any raised hands and anybody else, so we will move on to the consent agenda. For consent agenda this evening, we do have approval of minutes. We have meeting minutes from July 26th. Do we have any comments or changes suggested on those?
Yes, I had an email from Mark Miller. And he just wanted to state that his actually comment was in the first public comment and not in the second public comment about the software.
Okay,
In the minutes, it's got listed as the second public comment.
And then also, and on page 4 of the minutes, under other, we have allow Mr. Westerbarth to recuse from voting.
mm-hmm.
And it says Mr. Cummings support a motion by Mr. Spencer to accept Ms. Westerbarth's resignation. And then that's also stated on the next item under the Planning Commission resignation.
Oh, the wording needs to be changed for the recuse.
Yes.
Yes.
There was no recusal.
Hmm?
There was no recusal on the second one, so I applied to the first. Right?
Well, there was a
Copy paste.
recusal. Yeah, right,
the first,
exactly.
yeah, but-
Yeah, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
And then actually then it should be noted for Planning Commission resignation that that Mr. Westerbarth wasn't, abstained. So it's not really all yeas.
Good catch.
Right.
Those changes made and come back to the next meeting, or are you good with those changes? Accepting the meeting minutes with those changes?
Always accepted the minutes with the changes.
You're okay with that?
I am. I trust Josh to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then next on is finance. We have prepaid for August 3rd in the amount of $51,226.82. Are there any questions on that? Or those, I should say?
Under Department 299 unallocated, there's some Belson for $1,500 and change. What was that for?
You know what page that was?
I think Jamie
couldn't
asked
hear
what
that.
page number.
Oh, I apologize. On page 9 of the packet.
You said it was $299 unallocated?
Department 299 unallocated. And then it's Belson invoice for WQ 289721 for the amount of $1,506.14.
That's an outdoor company, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's Old Orchard Parks. It was on their visa, I believe.
I think it's benches usually, or
Yeah.
some kind of equipment.
Let me see if I can find it for you. Wilson, benches, correct.
Benches, eh?
Benches. This is, I believe this is where they were, like somebody, like where they want to donate a bench and we pay for it, like they pay us and then we pay for the invoice when it comes in through Old Orchard Park now. Like a memory bench.
Sure. Yep. So it's supposed to be under unallocated since they're paying for it, but we're paying for it and they're just reimbursing us.
Correct.
Okay. That was the only one that jumped out as what's that to me today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Everybody else okay on the August 3rd check run? Okay, then how about we have August 10th, a little bit larger check run, 164, 475.63.
Yeah, I had a question on that under the, it's on page 14 of the packet. Under treasurer, it's the United States Treasury. It was a penalty for late payment, $322.
That was from back in December when I wasn't here for one of the payrolls when I had COVID. And so I filed the payment for withholding taxes 2 days late. So they finally sent us a letter and we're paying the late payment for that.
They wouldn't waive it for COVID?
They have a very rigorous thing that I doubt it was gonna get waived, honestly.
This was for payroll taxes?
Yeah, payroll withholding tax, correct.
Yeah, they're pretty sticky about that stuff.
Yeah, they said
Yeah,
you
no.
could waive it, but then you had to, yeah. It would cost more because you had to have an attorney involved and those type of things, that it would have cost us more in attorney fees to do the things they wanted to do than to just pay it.
Okay, any other questions in that run?
Yeah, one other on page 17. There's 2 payments to F&V, both one under the sewer and then 2 under the water. They're the monthly payments that we pay them. I just wondered, we're paying August and we're also paying July.
That didn't get turned in, a PO didn't get created right away for the July, so we paid it as soon as we got it.
That would be my fault, Bill. I must have missed it in between my email. I wasn't copied in that, so it was in between superintendent emails. So when I asked Kath, hey, I haven't seen it, she forwarded it to me and I paid it as soon as I got it. So.
Okay. Just, difficult enough for companies to operate when they get paid on time. And so when it gets delayed to them, it's, they're having the same problems everybody else with employees, and we need to try and make our payments on time when we can. But okay, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on that run? Okay, hearing none then, with those couple changes that we're gonna make to the meeting minutes, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda with changes.
Support.
Okay, I'm sorry, was the support from Mr. Cummings or Mr. Westergaard? Okay, I wasn't looking up when you talked, so I didn't see it.
It's a short word.
Yeah, all right. So the motion, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Cummings to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. On to, I guess we don't have subcommittee reports this evening. So on to the superintendent's report. First on is the EIC bylaws. Oh, wait. Ooh. No, I didn't, sorry. I just realized that for consent agenda, we had the 2021 financial report. Hopefully nobody had any comments on that.
The Q2.
Yep. Sorry. Okay, hearing none, we're good. I know we have to provide it, so. Okay, so we're on to the superintendent's report. We have the EIC bylaws. I know Todd is on the line as well. I don't know. Go ahead, Tammy. Todd, whoever's gonna take this.
I'm not sure if Todd wanted to do this or if he wanted me to.
Yeah, that's fine. A couple weeks ago, I know the dates should be in the bylaws because the EIC committee did in fact vote to enact these bylaws, and we need the board to I guess, accept them. And then the little additional piece that I think is in that narrative is that this is indeed part of what the redevelopment ready community committee from the MEDC is looking at, that all of our group boards and committees like this have their own set of bylaws. So this does sort of comply and follow along with the RRC protocol. Other than that, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We've had 2 different attorneys review the bylaws before the EIC voted to accept them themselves. Not sure what else is in there that you guys feel is pertinent information or have questions about. Oh, I will say the format should follow pretty closely the Planning Commission's bylaws.
Okay. Somebody have any questions for Todd, comments?
Todd, how far are we away from our RC now?
We are close. I'm committing my whole life this week to completing the documentations. We kind of did a quasi audit about a week and a half ago with Pablo. So we kind of skipped over they moved over to what they call RRC 2.0. And so we were kind of caught in a little bit of a gap between 1.0 and 2.0. So there were a few extra documents that they wanted. These EIC bylaws is a mandate for RRC was in fact something that falls under 2.0 and was not existent in 1.0. So playing a little catch up, but there's going to be probably a couple of documents outstanding that I'll bring to the board at the next board meeting. And after that, it should be in the hands of the MEDC. And I think we should be sitting, pretty good.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the EIC bylaws as presented.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton to approve the bylaws as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on, we have the Ani Medical Building disposition. Tammy or Todd?
Yeah, so we got a couple of options, as you can see by your packet. We do have an offer presented by, oh shoot, I forget his company's name. I know him as Jeff. I've met with him a couple of times. And I
Opina
know,
Mark LLC.
yeah, and, I know Joel is on the call this evening as well. And Joel has spent considerable amount of time in the last several weeks talking with Jeff about his intentions. But basically before you have an offer presented by Jeff and his company. And I feel like your options are to, accept that offer and not move forward with an auction, counter his offer, fully decline his offer, and then move forward with the auction. And of course, if you decide that you want to move forward with the auction, you've got that agreement in place or, in front of you. And so you'd need to sign that. And then the last piece would be to set a reserve price as we would look to go to auction. So those are kind of your options tonight. Joel is here to answer questions. And then of course, I'm also here to add any commentary you might like.
Okay, I believe that Mr. Friel is on the line as well. I guess I do have one question. Has Tim, have you reviewed the auction?
No.
Concept? I mean, I know we, have had the listing contract agreed. We've executed that, but you have not reviewed the
No,
auction?
the listing agreement was with Friedman was the last thing that I looked at. So
Okay.
I just heard recently of this proposed land contract or the auction option. One of the things I was initially concerned about was the Municipal Finance Act. Can we do land contracts? It depends if we're selling or buying, so I think we're gonna be okay with that. Anyways, no, bottom line is I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, so if it is something we decide to move forward with, we'll have to review that,
You okay?
right?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. Has the township in the past ever had any land contracts where they sold property or we sold property?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What,
A couple.
remember what kind
I
of?
didn't get that. A couple,
Mhm.
I got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is if there is a sale where there's security involved, where the township is selling either on land contract, you know, where there's equity forfeiture rights or a mortgage, then there's an issue. Just give me the Municipal Finance Act. I don't think we're necessarily in a problem for that. And I would assume you guys would have legal counsel before with prior land contract deals. So.
We sold, well, I mean, off the top of my head, I remember we sold the house on Benetton Lake on a land contract. We've sold a couple buildings, one that we ended up back with.
I'm not a fan of the land contracts.
Neither am I.
On the bright side, though, if we sell it to them for that purchase price and for some reason something happens, well, I guess I don't know if that's the bright side or not, but we'd get the building back, right?
That's not the bright side.
Yeah.
That would be the
Say,
non-bright side,
yeah.
Agreed.
especially depending on what they've done with, what they've done with it.
Or what they haven't.
Or
Yeah.
haven't done with it. Yep.
Right.
And in relationships, especially when you have tenants. Not that we've done like 101% job on our, relationships with the tenants, but depending on what happens with the relationship on tenants too.
Yeah, if you're talking vacant land, that's one thing, but
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's, land contracts are, you basically a slumlord.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
hey guys, this is Joel Kestenberg from Friedman. I guess if I can kind of interject just my opinion on this particular land contract, his motivation, Jeff's motivation is primarily the VA and having them as the tenant. And within the offer, he does stipulate that he plans on paying off the balloon payment at the end of the land contract when the VA, when they renew after the end of their soft term in 26. So he has every intention of them being there. And by that time, you guys will have, accumulated significant interest on the building as well as 5 years of monthly payments. So there is a little bit of a unique situation here where it's not just a land contract, it's a land contract specifically because he's got, interest in the one tenant who, we all believe is not leaving. So, he.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah, and
I haven't seen the proposal yet.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, the land contract as it was offered was $700,000 purchase price with $100,000 down and 5% interest. My recommendation to Todd was, to counter no less than $850 at 6% interest and to double the down payment at $200,000. That way it covers the township's cost a little bit on the front end of any type of commissions and closing costs, and you guys are still left with somewhat of a significant down payment. And then on $850,000 purchase price, plus 6% interest, I mean, you're looking at almost, $55,000 on top of the purchase price.
Okay, so let's not talk too much publicly about what we might counter at.
Tim, did you say you have not reviewed the proposal?
No, I haven't seen it. I heard about it tonight. Did it come in like on Friday or something?
Yes, Friday.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
Thank you.
So I see that there's a lot of things that he wants us to agree to. Contingent on title work, provide all the drawings, provide unrestricted easements, immediately provide the assessed value and tax amount, et cetera, et cetera. Would we be able to toss in some things that, that would show that, you know, he's going to continue to pay for this over the course of time? Like, I know that we've been having problems with the heating system out there. Is that something we can say, well, you can buy it, but we want to see the heating system replaced within a certain amount of time? Just to show that he's got, I mean, I won't, we're looking for seriousness.
Let's not get too much into details like this, because this is something that we could technically go into, you know, closed session on, and for good reasons. So.
Isn't this is the sale of property though? I thought we could only go into closed session for purchase of property.
Purchase agreement, but any purchase agreement, no, it can be anything to do with purchase agreement. I'm concerned we don't want to just broadcast out there what our bargaining position might be.
I'm concerned that Mr. Friel hasn't had a chance to look at the proposal as well.
The proposal is really just an offer to purchase at this point. I mean, if you know there was never any contract or anything that really at that point needed to be reviewed. It was just an offer, and you know, I had worked with Todd to make sure we got it on tonight's agenda to discuss. So
yep, then yeah, that's a good deal. But maybe if you guys could all just give me your concerns, I could talk with Ann and Todd about whatever you guys funnel your concerns to me over, and we could kind of look at it from there.
What were you going to say, Steve?
I guess I just want to ask, I mean, if we're selling property, I don't understand how we can go into closed session on that, Tim. We had a big uproar at the end of the last board and the beginning of our board. And if it's a sale, I think it needs to be in public venue. It's just the way it is, being a government entity in my mind. I mean, to me, that Opens Meeting Act is pretty clear. And I'm not an attorney, I'll preface it that way. But getting it to this situation and reading through it, I'm not a big land contract fan. However, I do see that they're trying to work with Alcona Community College to possibly grow that entity in Oscoda in this building down the road. So that's something that's favorable to me. And if we can do something with the community as a whole, then I guess I'd be open to it. But I do believe the price is too low. As I looked down, I think in the auction we were going to set it at 900,000.
But there's two different.
In my mind, I'd like to see a little higher down payment and a little higher purchase price.
Okay, but just Steve, so you understand, there's a difference between you know, putting a property out there for disposition and then actually negotiating the terms, the actual terms. And there's specifically provision in the Open Meetings Act for closed session on that. And there's a good reason why. It's about giving away bargaining position, which kind of already done. You know, we don't necessarily want to do that. So what I'm saying is there's no secret about the fact that this place is up. There's been a proposals in the general context of the land contract. Now we've talked about more about the terms, even possibly what our counters are going to be. In the best interest of the township, we don't want those to be splayed all over, you know, the public right now. And that's why there's an exception to the Open Meetings Act.
Right. And I think that's how we've handled or how we did in the past, where again, we advertise it for sale, we get an offer, we publicly say what the offer is, but then we can go into, like you're saying, Tim, go into closed session to discuss our thoughts for a counter. And then that gets discussed in open session afterwards.
Well, no. Negotiations and purchase agreement relative to that purchase of property, whether we be the seller or the buyer, you know, once we come to an agreement, okay, that's, and once we go to agree to an agreement, that's totally open session. But I'm just cautioning the board that we don't, you know, there are reasons for this. We want to discuss these.
Okay. I don't know.
In closed negotiation. So everybody on the board should feel free to offer their input. And then I would like to be able to discuss these things. I will with Todd and Ann, go back and forth, but there will be no decisions that aren't in open session for sure.
Correct.
You know, at all, and without your input, the board's input.
Well, with that, I would just add that when I saw this offer, was kind of excited because, you know, we would like to move this property. My concern was that the down payment was too low. That was really my only concern. 5% interest was fair. That's certainly more than we're making on any other investments that we have. So to make a counter with a higher down payment, as far as I'm concerned, in my position, I would be happy with that, and maybe a little higher price. You know, they claim at the auction we're going to set a, you know, a minimum of 900,000, but you know, there's no guarantee on that. And when I look back in history, when we had an offer on that some years ago, and we kicked the ball back and forth, and then we ended up losing the buyer. This is a property that, in my opinion, I would like to see us, you know, get out from under. So that's, I won't say what my numbers were that I was thinking, but I did want to have a higher down payment on it. That was my primary concern on all this. And the other was you mentioned, and there's something about making changes to the building, and I would be a little cautious about that. But those were my concerns.
And guys, too, I will say that, you know, I won't speak at numbers. I mean, I guess it sounds like maybe we'll save that for a closed session, but being a land contract versus a traditional purchase, I do believe that the township, you know, holds a little bit more leverage, you know, on a purchase price or a down payment, because the buyer is not being asked to come up with the full amount of the purchase price at closing. So, you know, it's a benefit to the purchaser from that standpoint, and it could end up a benefit to the township from an overall purchase standpoint. So I do believe that, you know, if there's a couple ways to counter this offer, whether it be land contract or traditional, and, you know, to find out how serious the buyer is. But I do believe that, you know, the township holds some leverage on a land contract, because if he's only asked to come up with, you know, 20% of the purchase price, well, you know, there's something to be said for that, and you guys should be compensated accordingly. So I won't, you know, speak numbers of what my thoughts are at this point, but I do believe that there's a couple different options.
Okay, one, and basically, we're not ready to act one way or the other in regard to the auction concept contract anyways, because Mr. Friel hasn't reviewed it. Correct?
Right.
Okay.
So are we gonna just postpone this one until the next meeting? So
Sounds
everybody
like it.
Can we get some direction though, in terms of how to, I mean, yeah, I gotta review it obviously, but given all your comments so far tonight, I'd like.
Yeah, I would like to see you work with Tammy and Ann and Todd to make a counter offer of some sort.
Okay, good. And I'll seek input in my own way. I mean, you're my client, and I do a lot of real estate, so.
So we'll have a closed session at the next meeting concerning this.
Maybe, yeah. And I'll deal with Mr. Kestenberg too.
I don't know who's got the background there.
Who's that?
it's the user known as Tim, not Mr. Friel, whoever's Tim.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought
Monty
that was,
Python.
I was confused by the Tims, too many Tims, sorry, I just muted. Yeah, all right, okay,
All right, well, I move to postpone until our next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Support.
I support.
so there's a motion by actually Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire to postpone. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wursterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. All right, next on is the tax abatement policy. Todd or Tammy? Or both, I'm not sure.
Yep, so your packet should contain the latest draft for the tax abatement policy. You guys have been briefed. Previously, we've taken that draft or collected feedback from the town's people in our latest or our last meeting for the public meeting we had regarding FERTA. I know that Tim and Rob from Mission North have had an exchange this week regarding just some finer details of the language that Mr. Friel would like to see in that. So Tim, if you want to comment on that, go for it. I think Rob is also on the call. And the board can elect to either adopt it tonight, adopt it with contingent language that Mr. Friel would like to see in it, or we can punt for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thankful for Rob's response, and we whittled it down to the issues of recovering a refund situation if somebody was undertaxed or whatever, or underpaid, and how that gets recovered. And so what we left it at as if either one of us had nothing better to do or other to do, that I think we're going to tweak the agreement language to permit to specify how a little bit more how we collect in a refund situation. And also, since it appears from the state tax commission that as opposed to a PRE situation where the assessor can go back and recover a wrongfully exempted property, it doesn't appear to be as, I haven't gotten into the public acts that Rob cited, but I don't mean to bore you guys with this minutia, but and I'm no property tax expert, but it doesn't appear to be where we can levy on as an ad valorem tax for a refund. So we would have to basically go to the circuit court action to enforce it. I think as a practical matter, we don't have too much to worry about, but what Rob and I discussed last was I would like to build in, well, if we have to do that into this agreement that we have in block form, that there be a recovery of costs and attorney's fees for that if we have to do it. So I guess Todd, and Rob, in terms of where it stands right now, if we could just move forward on this, be a motion to approve with, maybe not. Maybe we just need to go forward with the proposed agreement with the understanding that we're going to tweak it a little bit more to provide for the refund situation. And if we have to pursue enforcement, you get costs and attorney's fees.
So should we, you want us to approve it now?
Yes, that's what I'm not sure about in terms, Todd and Rob, what do you think in terms of where the agreement as it presently stands in draft form? I'd like to move as much along as possible as we can, but I don't want to be too hasty about it, overly hasty about it.
Well, do you have the language ready for what you're talking about with adding in there for the recoupment of?
I don't have the
fees, et
exact language or where it would go within the agreement, but and we're talking just an agreement form too. But it's more the concepts that we're going back and forth on most recently. And so
I guess if we approve it today and you guys draft new language and find placement for said language, how difficult is it going to be? Or, is it going to be a pain in the ass to go back and change it? Or is it going to be
no, I'm just thinking procedurally. The main issues are the refund situation where somebody has been undertaxed basically, or they've gotten an over abatement and they need to pay back. I was hoping that we could just tax it back like we do when there was a PRE, the principal resident exemption that was afforded that shouldn't have been. There's specific statutory power to go back and recover that up to like 5 years back or something like that. It doesn't appear to be one. I haven't done my new detailed research on this, but there doesn't appear to be one for a situation like this. And we have an agreement in place. So I would say the draft that's been presented would be okay, as long as we could provide for, you guys could build this into a motion, a refund situation, the enforcement of that if it has to go to circuit court, language be provided that added to the standard agreement that, we recover actual costs and attorney's fees in that process too.
They could really put some wind on the board here to say, no, they have.
So I guess you're looking for a motion, something along the lines of,
Well,
Move to approve the tax abatement policy as written, leaving a section open for recovery of funds to be provided by the township attorney.
Todd, what's the urgency factor on this one?
This also has RRC relevancy, so I guess with this discussion we've had, we could wait 2 more weeks if the board is going to be ready to go in 2 weeks. There's a couple, like I say, there's a couple of finer outstanding things I've got to deliver at the next board meeting. So I
That
guess
would be way better.
okay, let's do it then. But
Okay.
after the board meeting, I'm hoping we've got everything approved and blessed, and I can put it in front of the RRC.
Yeah.
So
All
it
right,
doesn't,
well,
doesn't kill us to wait those 2 weeks, as long as everybody's, heads in the game.
well, I will rescind the motion and move to postpone the tax abatement policy for approval at the next regular board meeting, pending the information from the EIC and council.
And Todd, Rob, Tammy and I will work on finalizing an agreement to that end.
Will do, yeah.
Good.
All right.
I'll support that motion.
Cool.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Ms. Richards. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wursterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. Next on is social district policy. Tammy or Todd?
Yeah, so this one should be a little easier. I think alls I'm really asking for here is, we've got some, what do I want to say here? Some advocates in the community that would like to see a social district put in place. I've provided the board some background information on what that looks like and what it looks like specific to Alpena. Alls I'm really asking for is the board to make a recommendation for the EIC to further vet this and then bring a specific recommendation and an outline of what that program or policy might look like back to the board.
So this is the people walking around with alcoholic beverages outside of bars?
Yes, sir.
In a specific cup. Which technically we don't have an open intoxicant. It's not illegal now to walk with an open intoxicant on our sidewalks or streets.
So we can't walk downtown and buy a joint anywhere, but we can walk around with alcohol in special cups?
Don't know about the joint part, sorry.
Well, that
Yeah,
would be-
yeah, I said it.
This is more of the commercial thing with the liquor license, though, because technically you're not allowed to go outside unless it's fenced in there.
Right. You have to have a,
Right, so this would give us a district where they could purchase and then walk around.
they have to, yep, they're supposed to, in theory, stay within the district. And then it has to be served in that cup and you have to ask for it, at the time of order. So
Is our public beach going to be part of that district?
I think that's probably what the EIC would be looking at.
Exactly.
Do you know, Todd, if it could cross township lines, i.e. like could it go, because you have the hilltop that's in Ascoda Township? Can we look at so that it, and same thing with the Ascoda Lynn? Could it go in that way?
Well,
I don't know.
I'm not here to present my findings. I'm only here to get the board's approval that we'd like to have such a thing, and then we can go find out the finer
Right,
details.
I understand that. I just asked if you knew that
Yeah.
part.
No, I
but-
don't.
Okay, I guess for my 2 cents, I would like that looked at if we're gonna be tasking the EIC with that, so.
Well, with that, I would like to make a motion to direct the EIC to evaluate a social district policy for Oscoda Township and bring a recommendation to the board for consideration.
Or
Or
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
No,
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried.
And before we move to the next item, can
Uh-huh.
I'd like to know, is there more information on what that district would look like? I mean, we said we didn't have one specifically in mind, but I guess, is there any more information we have about what the district size would be? Is it purely just like you say, maybe the beach area, what we consider downtown, which could be the area that used to encompass the DDA? I mean, is that what we mean by a district area? What do we mean by just a district area?
But again, I think that's what we're tasking the EIC to come back with to us. What's their recommendation?
Okay, fair enough.
Mhm.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks a lot.
And doesn't it also incorporate like closing down streets for events and entertainment too, Todd? Is that, or Todd or anybody?
Well,
I honestly don't know about that, so.
Yeah, I think it can, but Jamie, I'd be lying if I told you I knew the laws, and we're at the front end of this, so I don't claim to be an expert.
Okay, would the planning commission also have thoughts on this besides the EIC?
I'm happy to incorporate them into the process.
I think that's a good idea.
I would certainly think the zoning district would play a part in that policy.
Yep. Yeah.
Primarily, that it would not go into residential districts.
is there anybody in the waiting room trying to get in the meeting?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. Oh, I guess there is, sorry.
Ah.
It didn't ding.
It's okay.
There's another one. Usually it dings when there's somebody sitting there. No dinging was heard on my end.
There was a ding lack.
Okay, all right, so with that, I believe we're ready to go to row engineering invoice approval. I guess my thought with this is, Tammy and I have talked about it a little bit. We have a lot of invoices. So my thought was we would hear from Rick to go over each one, and then we would act on each one as he presents it to us, if the board is okay with that, instead of talking about it and then rhyming back through it. So I just think it would streamline it. Yeah, streamline it a little bit
I like that.
more.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, and make it a little easier for Josh as well, since he's got 60 invoices to do motions on, and yeah. And 60 might be a slight exaggeration, but anyways. So with that, I believe that Rick is there. He might have been one of the ones in the waiting room. Sorry about that, Rick.
No, I was here.
You were there? Okay,
Yep.
well, somebody else was. I apologize for that.
Not
hear
a
the
problem.
ding. Okay, so did you hear that? Can we go through each individual one?
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
I don't know if they're in an order that maybe you have written down, Josh, or does that not matter?
These ones.
Sorry, I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible for Josh too, because there's a lot for.
Yeah, if you look on the superintendent's report, we had the invoice number 98415 and 98802, both being paid.
Those are both for as needed services.
Yes, and those will both be paid out of our half out of 591000821.
Okay, all right. We don't need to go through all that right now. I guess I was just asking, is there a specific order for the invoices that we need to go through?
They should be in the order as Rick gave them. It's in the packet with.
Okay, so hopefully the way,
down the
I
list.
guess, yeah, if you start with them, Rick, then go ahead with an invoice number in your
Okay.
email, I'm
Okay.
assuming. Okay,
The first two are for the as needed services.
Mhm.
First one is invoice, as Josh said, 98415 in the amount of $17,814.25. These are for our as needed services, and I'll give just kind of an overview. I apologize for the number and how they came in, But part of the reason for that is we needed to kind of hold back on our end until all of the funding sources came in, the closing for DWRF and SRF, the trail and all that stuff, to make sure that our invoice format for reimbursement for the township was correct. And also the amounts for the reimbursements were lining up with the closing and all of that. So again, I apologize, but I purposely held these back until that funding mechanism fell into place for several of these projects. So having said that, so this first invoice was for our services up through the end of May. As I said, invoice 98415, $17,814.25. Variety of projects that we were working on, a few site plan reviews, finishing up on those, providing comments, grant or funding requests from Sue Aller's office, Dale Kildy's office, and such. So those were a combination, like I said, until we got a better handle on what some of the other ones were coming in at, I held this one back. And the as needed services I held back anyway, just to make sure that we are invoicing you properly for the services rendered.
Okay, so the first one again is 98415. Okay,
Right, for $17,814.25.
right. Are there any questions on that?
No, I will make a motion to approve invoice 98415 in the amount of $17,814.25 to be split between funds 590-000-821.000 and 591-000-821.000.
Okay, sorry, I got somebody in the background.
Oh, Mary should know better.
Oh. Okay, all right, I'll support that. So there's a motion by Bill Palmer, support by Miss, geez, I forgot my name for a second, Miss Richards. All right, roll call, please.
Which invoice is that for?
98415.
Okay, are we doing these all individual then?
Yes.
Yeah, they have to be. They
Mr.
have to be
Spencer,
identified.
Who made
Yeah.
that? Sorry, who made the motion and the support on this?
Mr. Palmer made the motion, and I made the support.
All right, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried.
Okay, next as needed service invoice is invoice 98802 in the amount of $11,941 for services rendered up through the end of June, 6/30 of 2021. Same explanation as before, just making sure that everything got accounted for in the right category. We weren't charging under as needed for any of the other projects that get reimbursed for and such. So just again, making sure that everything was clear and clean before we submitted it to the township for payment.
Rick, I had a question that I just thought of.
Yes,
With these first couple ones, are these going to be within our project tracking for these two big projects that we have coming up?
no, that's part of the reason why I held these up. I wanted to make sure there was nothing in these to track.
Okay.
Because like I said, we want to make sure that that stuff is clean.
Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
Jeff's iPad.
Jeff's iPad. Got off.
I'll make a
Usually-
motion to approve invoice 98802 in the amount of $11,941 to be paid from 591-000-821-100.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton for invoice 98802. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried.
Okay, the next one on my email was for the Iosco Trail, Exploration Trail. Again, kind of a summary for this is we wanted to make sure we got through the June 2nd GI meeting with grade inspection preliminary plan meeting with MDOT, and then also to make sure that the township was on track for the additional TAP grant that takes us out to the entrance of Old Orchard. So basically completing the entire project. And then also, if you recall, we had out there at the time, the application to USDA for reimbursement of engineering costs. And like I said, once again, I wanted to make sure that our format and the services rendered were within their guidelines for reimbursement before we invoice the township. So having said that, the first invoice, 98413, in the amount of $5,456.50.
So there's three, or there's three there total.
There's three separate invoices for the Iosco Exploration Trail.
Okay. And and so the total for all three, Tammy, on your report is the 22,215.75?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and they all come out of the same GL?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we just need to, again, still do each one individually, correct, for that grant?
Yes, I would recommend that because like I said, in the paperwork that we'll need to submit, it'll need to show board meeting minutes approving each one individually.
Okay, all right. So with that, do we have a motion for 98413 invoice to be paid?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve a payment of invoice 98413 in the amount of $5,456.50 paid from Fund 101-751-880.572.
Okay, okay, McGuire. Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. And then
Okay.
next week, yep.
Yep, next invoice for the Iosco Trail, Exploration Trail, same project. Invoice number 98632 in the amount of $3,556.00.
Come on, Bill, stay on a roll.
All right, I'll make a motion to pay invoice 98632 in the amount of $3,556 paid from Fund 101-751-880.572.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried.
Okay, the final of those three for the trail, invoice 99058 in the amount of $13,203.25.
make a motion that we pay row engineering invoice number 99058 in the amount of $13,203.25 to be paid from GL 101-751-880.572 for the Iosco exploration trail.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. Now we're moving on to the Ascota water main phases B, G, and F41, correct?
Right, yes, these are the water main projects that are under construction currently this summer, being funded out of the drinking water revolving fund. Same thing here, we closed on this project with Eagle back on June 9th of 2021. We lost we didn't receive the guidelines for the reimbursement requests until actually just earlier today for the CWSRF, which is the same. So, but again, we had to go back and make sure that again that we had properly invoiced, properly documented that, and again, each one of these will need individual approval by the board so that working with Tammy and Jamie, we can get these things in the reimbursement queue with Eagle. And from what I understand, it takes about 10 days to get reimbursement back. So it's a pretty quick turnaround for state government. So having said that, first invoice 97148 in the amount of $18,092.31.
Okay.
Now, that's the only one in the packet that doesn't have an amount due on it.
I'm not seeing it.
That's
Is it
probably where I went. That's where I derailed. I think
Is it
it's
missing a page?
Yeah, it just might be missing a page.
That was
Yeah,
the amount that I came up with based on the total of the others and what we had listed as a total amount. I came up with that same $18,092.31.
So we're just missing that page.
Tammy, did my email to you miss that page?
No, I'm looking at my whole submission when I loaded this in. I have it at $18,092.31 is what I'm looking at. So I'm not sure if it maybe stuck together when it went through the machine. Not sure, but
Oh, right. Could have.
it went through the whole batch there. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
Is that something that you could forward to Miss Richards and she could bring it up on the screen and show us the last page? That way it's part of the meeting and we can move on.
Yeah. It's kind of big though, so let me make sure I have the correct invoice. It's 97148, correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay,
Can we move on to another one in the meantime?
sure thing.
I mean, because we have 3 underneath there. So 97782.
Yeah, 97782 in the amount of $2,622.50.
So I'll make a motion to approve invoice 97782 in the amount of $2,622.50 paid from Fund 591-000-821-000.
or
There's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. Then we have invoice number 98168.
Yes, 98168 in the amount of $8,420.00.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 98168 in the amount of $8,420 to come from 591-000-821-100.
support,
There's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Is that the right?
Hmm?
I just wanted to check and make sure that's the right fund.
1681.
Yes.
In the, yeah,
Yes.
59, yeah.
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay.
all right, Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried, sorry. Next on is invoice number 98388.
Yes, invoice 98388 in the amount of $3,365.00.
Make a motion that we pay row invoice 98388 for water main phases BG and F41 totaling $3,365 and coming to be paid from GL 591-000-0821.100.
Support.
There's a motion by Mr. Westabarth, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Do you have invoice 97148 now on your screen?
I see it.
Mhm.
Going down to the bottom, see the amount?
There it is.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right. So with that, somebody like to make a motion? Again, we were just missing somehow the second page in the packet.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve invoice 97148 in the amount of $18,092.31 paid from Fund 591-000-821.100.
support,
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton for invoice 97148. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried.
And we've lost your screen. Is that right?
Yep, that's all right. I'm switching to the other, back to the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next group, the Ascota wastewater pump station improvement project, which is the CWSRF. Same reason behind this. We needed to make sure that everything was proper on our invoices, so we didn't hold up the delay for reimbursement. And also this one, we're still waiting for some information on how they're going to incorporate the principal forgiveness on this. But we also haven't closed on this one yet. This one closes on August 30th or 31st. So, but having said that, we have invoice 97568 in the amount of $835.00.
Okay, is there any further discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 97568 to Rowe for $51,835 coming out of Fund 590-000-821-000.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mrs. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer for invoice 97568. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on, we're on 98055.
Yes, invoice 98055 in the amount of $31,431.25.
I'll make a motion to approve invoice 98055 in the amount of $31,431.25 to be paid from Fund 590-000-821.000.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on, we invoice 98389.
Yes, 98389 in the amount of $7,210.00.
Okay, any discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 98389 to Rowe for $7,210.00 coming from general ledger number 590-000-821-000.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is invoice 98823.
Yes, 98823 in the amount of $12,557.75.
I'll make a motion to approve paying invoice 98823 in the amount of $12,557.75 to be paid from Fund 590-000-821.000.
support,
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Sutton for invoice 98823. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. And we're moving on to the Ascota Wordsmith Airport Industrial Park project.
Yes, and couple of things here. One, we inadvertently had sent these to the airport authority and not the township. But in doing so, though, Gary had the opportunity to make sure that we were expending his MEDC grant appropriately and in a timely fashion. So having said that, first invoice is 98390 in the amount of $8,620.00.
Your turn, Jamie.
Well, I was kind of looking at something else, so hopefully I got the amount right. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong then. So I'll make a motion to pay Rowe invoice number 98390 And I think in the amount of $8,020.00.
$8,620.00.
20, okay, I didn't write it down right. Okay, $8,620 coming out of 236-266-801-000.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is invoice 98824.
Yes, 98824 in the amount of $7,341.25.
I'll make a motion to approve invoice 98824 in the amount of $7,341.25 to be paid from Fund 236-266-801.000.
support.
There's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Almost there. Invoice 99178.
Yes, 99178 in the amount of $12,777.50.
okay, I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 99178 to Rowe Engineering for $12,777.50, coming from general ledger number 236-266-801-000.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Motion carried. Next and last on the list is invoice 99082 for Fertile Field Mixed Use Development.
Yes, 99082 and last and least amount, $617.50.
This one's a little high for my taste, actually.
This was some of the early graphics, diagrams and sheets that we provided Todd, so.
Come on, Jeremy, get your name on the list.
I want to, but I don't know what accounts they're coming out of. And so I'm just abstaining. I'm voting to approve it and letting Miss McGuire and Mr. Palmer rock it out.
well, I'll make a
I'll make
motion.
a motion that we approve Rowe Engineering invoice number 99082 for the Fertile Field Mixed Use Development Project totaling $617.50 to be paid from GL 101-250-801.000.
Okay, was that you, Mr. Sutton, with the support? Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Westerbar, support by Mr. Sutton for
Yeah.
invoice 99082. Okay,
Yeah, just one quick question, Rick. Is there going to be any more expense for the meetings for Fertile Field, for any drawings or anything for that?
I can't remember I can't remember what the exact proposal amount was. We're kind of as needed as Todd needs this. Todd, I don't know, can you recall what
I thought it was like $6 or $8 grand.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
something like that, so.
This is $617, so.
Right, yeah, so there'll be possibly some more graphics. I think, our ability to attend some meetings if necessary and that, so.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah,
Just-
I just see some extra support probably right after our last meeting, which is on the 19th. We'll make things a little prettier, a little fancier. If the board decides we're going to send out RFPs. So that's about all I see.
And like all of our other proposals, they're time and materials with a not to exceed, so the township only gets billed for the amount of time we have into it.
And we appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Westerbarth,
Sorry, folks, my phone quit. Had to dial back in.
Oh,
You're up for vote.
okay, you're up for a vote.
On the Fertile Field invoice 61750. Yes.
Yep.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried.
And,
Right.
and as I said, we'll be working closely with Jamie and Tammy to make sure that they have all the information for the township to start getting reimbursed on all of this, so. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rick. Are you done on the agenda? I forget.
I think I'm part of the top tree utility easement
Oh,
discussion.
gotcha.
on the other.
Okay. All righty. Well, we'll see you in a little bit then.
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving on then. Sorry, I lost my agenda. Okay. To Ferguson large meter purchase.
Okay, your packet contains an email from Melinda with F&B Operations and a quote from Ferguson Waterworks to purchase the larger meter sizes, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inch. These meters will be used to begin meter upgrades throughout the township. The cost for these meters would total $10,825.18 to be paid from 591-000-980.100. I would ask that the board consider approval of the purchase of the large meters in this amount.
Okay, is there any questions or a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of the large water meters in the amount of $10,825.18 to be paid from account 591-000-980.100.
I'll support that. There's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Ms. Richards. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Westerbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on the agenda is F&V Operations Proposal for additional PFAS investigation for sanitary sewer.
Okay, so at a township board meeting on May 13th, 2019, the township entered into an agreement with F&V Operations to evaluate PFAS within the township's wastewater treatment plant for a compliance communication with Eagle, which is in your packet for review. At a recent follow-up meeting with Eagle, the results were discussed, resulting in additional sampling and evaluation. Findings identified a potential source at the former contamination pond, or containment pond, I'm sorry, and downstream sanitary sewers. This request is due to Eagle for the plan on September 30th on or by September 30th, 2021. I would ask that the board consider approving the additional investigation proposal in the amount not to exceed $39,000 to be paid from 590-000-800.000.
So we have to do another study?
Basically, what it would be is they through the testing and the first part of our compliance, they found areas that had PFAS in the wastewater in our sanitary. So they have more follow-up to do to see if it's if it's coming from upstream or if it's coming directly from that containment pond.
So since we take the treated water and put it back into the ground, they're saying, oh, it might be you guys adding the PFAS.
I don't think that's it.
I don't.
Kath is here and she might be able
Kath
to
is on.
explain it a little better.
Kath and somebody else.
Elaine is on
Elena.
here
Elaine.
also.
Yeah, Elaine's on as well.
So basically that Eagle, it is not just Oscoda that's been subject to this kind of an investigation. They're looking at all wastewater plants in regard to potential sources of PFAS contamination and reducing or eliminating those sources. They understand that there are legacy materials on the base. And the question is are there things that could be eliminated from the wastewater stream specifically? The other thing that if you go back to Eagle's letter, it also references Pump Station 2, which is the pump station at the south end of the system adjacent to Ascota Township, and Pump Station 4, which is the main pump station in the downtown area, kind of behind the Speedway. Both of those also had PFAS amounts higher than the water quality standards. And so those sources would also need to be tracked down, not just the Air Force Base. The original round of investigation, we did 2 rounds of samples in some of those locations during the time that the water table was high, and then after things had dried out early this year, to see if it was a groundwater influence that was causing it, and did not find that that was the case. Thinking that, maybe it was just legacy material that was already in the groundwater, but it appears not to be. So aside from trying to determine if there's a defined source on the base that's tied to the sanitary sewer that could be eliminated or, reduced, we also will need to, per Eagle, look into where the possible sources are in those other 2 pump stations, which neither of them have flow coming from the base.
Are we under mandate to do this? And has this been budgeted last year? Or is this just expected?
It's an unfunded mandate. Eagle, per their compliance communication, is basically given specific deadlines that can be, that they can enforce. And, they would then pursue other avenues. I don't know exactly what those would be in order to compel the township to continue on with their investigation. I know that, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that the first round of investigation came in under the budget. And this again is similar to what Ro was talking about. This is a not to exceed budget. This is not a lump sum budget. So depending on what we find and how many samples need to be taken in order to define what the potential sources of PFAS are, will determine what the actual expenditure is. But no, this was not budgeted. This is not something that was anticipated that was going to happen, or that, we had any communication from Eagle prior to this summer. So it couldn't have been included in the fiscal year budget.
So
How many
do we have
times?
an opportunity back to the federal government to have this paid for? Part of the Air Force?
That's going to be, a role for the township to take, as far as if there are legacy materials on the base that are identified and can be tied to the Air Force. That would be something that, I don't know how you would pursue that. I know that there have been a lot of issues with the government paying for some of the existing problems that have been identified, let alone this. But as far as, our investigation, if we can pinpoint a source that can be disconnected from the sewer, or something that can be cleaned up to remove it from the wastewater system, or if we can identify if there's a commercial or industrial source in Pump Station 2 or Pump Station 4. I know we've done this successfully with other communities where we've identified the potential chemical that is being used that's causing it, and they've replaced it with another chemical or cleaned out tanks that maybe have residual material or something like that, where then it could thus, be eliminated from the environment. So once that's been identified, those costs for the cleanup part would be the responsibility of the industry or commercial business. And as far as the Air Force Base, the former Wart Smith Air Force Base, Coletta Air, the Airport Authority, the Township, our role would just be to identify it and then, figure out how to get it out of the system. And then, it
So
would
there's,
have to be wrangled from there.
so they're saying that they're testing they're testing these pumps and the pump stations and all that stuff. And they're testing the water that's coming out of our wastewater treatment facility and finding the PFAS in the outgoing wastewater.
Yes,
And
that's
this
correct.
is PFAS something that we are not able to clean at that wastewater facility?
Absolutely not able to clean it. So this would be a situation, in order for you to reduce it at the wastewater plant. First off, the type of treatment system it is, it's an aerated lagoon, does not provide a really clear effluent, because it is then discharged onto the rapid infiltration basins, which act like a giant sand filter, so to speak. So that if you were to take that effluent before the sand filters and try to put it through like a GAC system, it would blind it off. It would use up all of the available GAC in pretty short order, and then you'd have to go through the cost of removing that, replacing it, whatever have you. So that's, and it's there's 400,000 gallons a day. So I'm not an engineer, and I don't even know if Elaine, who's also on the call, could tell you what that looks like as far as cost, but it's not going to be a practicable solution to eliminating this problem. Aside from, like I said, even aside from anything that's on the base, finding those sources that are outside of the base is probably a more realistic target at this point, and something that we're going to be focusing on. Now, we did do some background investigation in the first round where we looked at all the non-domestic users on the system, so basically commercial, industrial, that were listed in the utility billing database for both Ascoda Township and Oscoda, to try to target potential sources. But we're going to have to go back and look at other potential issues, do some additional sampling out in the collection system, see if we can find out where it's coming from, and then try to go back to the source and eliminate it from there. So even if you take the base out of it, there's still a lot of investigation to do. We were kind of surprised to see the levels that we saw at Pump Station 2 and Pump Station 4, because they're not in any way associated with the base.
Before the not to exceed 39,000, what are we getting for that, and where are you sending the samples? How is that process going to work?
Yeah, so I'm Elaine. I'm the engineer that's kind of running with this investigation, but let's see, we'll get the packet here, see if our specific proposal is in here, but on the base side of things, we did collect several samples in April of this year already. And we'd like to, at Eagle's request, go upstream of some of those manholes that we already sampled, some different parts of the base kind of upstream, and see if we can pinpoint the sources. So that's kind of that aspect. We were going to do 4 samples near that former AFFF retention pond that's not in use anymore, but could have some residual AFFF material, and samples from that area had very high concentrations. And we were going to do some resampling of a couple of the manholes we sampled in April, because that was, it's only one data point. So we'd like to resample a couple of those areas. And then, as Kath mentioned, Pump Station 2 and 4, we had some of PFOS, not as high as what we had found at the Air Force Base, or the former Air Force Base area, but still above Eagle's water quality standard. So we were going to collect 4 samples upstream of pump station 4 to try to narrow that down, because that was collecting a fairly large area, pretty much the entire downtown area. And the residential area nearby, just because we weren't expecting to find PFOS there. So we kind of took a larger, when we divvied up the entire collection system, that was a pretty large area. So now we need to kind of section that off and see if we can identify a source in that area. And then kind of similar with pump station 2, kind of keep going upstream so we can identify the source. We did sample a couple of the industrial users already, and those came back non-detect. Cooper standard, and
I can shorten this up. What I'm looking for, who's physically from S&D is going to take the samples? Is it the part of the 5.5 people that we have on staff and we're paying a monthly fee for labor right now? Is it going to be yourself? Or is it some new people coming in to do this? And then where are the samples being sent to? Because to my knowledge, there's only 2 labs in the United States that are certified to test for PFAS. And one of them happens to be here in Ascota on the base. I guess I'm looking for if you're going to just take the samples right to the testing facility on the base or on the Wordsmith property.
So as far as the lab, we have been using a different lab, SGS, which is one of the kind of global but nationwide premier laboratories that does PFAS testing. And we'd like to continue to use them because with PFAS, EPA doesn't have a wastewater approved method for testing. They do for drinking water, but for wastewater, every lab has a slightly different methodology on how to do it because EPA doesn't have a prescriptive method. So we'd like to, for comparison's sake, when we're comparing results to previous results, continue to use the lab that we have been using. And like I said, that lab is one of the most qualified labs in the state. We interviewed labs back in 2019 when we started this project. So we would like to continue to use that one. And then as far as personnel goes, myself, I would be out there to identify which specific manholes we would be looking at, as I've done in the past. And then we have a team of technicians and field technicians who do this routinely.
Yeah, if I can add to that, it is not your normal people that you're paying for. I think that's what you were kind of going for. That staff is already busy doing other job duties that this would take them away from. And also the requirements for sampling are very stringent. And so the materials that are used for the sampling as well as the method are, because you're talking nanograms per liter, you don't want to introduce any contamination to the samples. So the staff that are in Oscoda are not part of that technical sampling team.
Okay, so I'll leave it at this. I would like to see quotes on labor, what it's going to look like. I would like to see quotes from multiple labs, because this is an out-of-pocket expense for us. It's not budgeted. So I want to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. I'm all for finding out where this is, but in the end, I want to get this built back to the federal government some way. We just can't come to the table every 3 months with a $40,000 bill and expect, we can burden the taxpayers with this. So I need to see some homework on the F&B side to see the breakdowns.
Also, what happens if you guys go through this whole testing process and you are unable to nail down where it's coming from? Do we just go through and test again and again and again? Or do you have alternative planning?
I can speak to that a little bit. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen this process happen previously with Eagle for other contaminant sources. The big one being mercury. That was one where they basically kept requiring communities to do repeat rounds of sampling until they had narrowed down the source definitively, and then work with that source to remove it. So I know that I've worked with communities that had 3, 4, 5 rounds of ongoing sampling until they identified a source. And then they had to do ongoing monitoring on a monthly basis until it was under control before they could request reduced monitoring to down to like a quarterly type of a monitoring. And, you know, frankly, the Eagle doesn't really care because like I said, this is an unfunded mandate. And they are targeting all wastewater treatment plants that they've had any detectable PFAS in. So it's not specific to Wordsmith. We can track for you exactly where those samples came from or what portion of the hours were spent for the Wordsmith Air Force Base specifically, because that would possibly be something that the township could work with, you know, another entity to get paid for, but the domestic portion of it or the areas for pump station 2 and 4 are not related to the base. So I don't know that those costs would be something that you could seek reimbursement for.
Even though the river that is being contaminated by the wastewater and Clark's Marsh is running down the old Asable directly into the Asable Township. So anyone using an old pump to water their grass, if there's runoff into the street that has the PFAS that they're pumping out of the ground, that could be attributed to the base. Are we
Hopefully-
dancing on the
You
line
don't-
here?
You don't have combined sewers. So, you know, in larger cities where they actually have those stormwater catch basins connected to the sewers, that might be a discussion, but you don't have storm sewers in most of these areas and or stormwater catch basins except for, you know, along US 23. And so, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot of different facets to this. I'm not saying there's not, but we are just presenting our best approach to satisfy the request from Eagle, or actually not a request, a mandate from Eagle that the township continue on with this investigation.
And we don't know what the ramifications are if we just ignored it.
I was going to ask that, but
I'm just asking.
It's a good question. What are they going to do
I mean,
if we say no?
Are there they could shut down the plant, they could fine us, they could what?
So, I was just gonna say, I'm actually working with another client and their levels of PFAS are much lower, but just 2 parts per trillion over the water quality standard. And that, along with some other issues, they ended up with a notice of violation letter, and they're negotiating an administrative consent order because PFAS is or PFOS, a specific type of PFAS, is a parameter that there is a water quality standard for. So as part of your permit process, Eagle has the authority to require treatment plants to meet their effluent quality, to meet those limits. So it would probably take a few years to get to that point, but they can definitely write a letter of violation if we miss that September 30 deadline without requesting an extension.
Well, the other
And the
thing
point
too
you're
is you're
making here
dealing
is
with
that-
Eagle.
Sorry, Catherine.
go
So
ahead.
Elaine, the point you're making is that they could take away the permit for the water treatment plant. Is that correct?
It would likely be more like they would issue a fine at first, and then, you know, work with the township on addressing it over time. But all of that work is expensive. And it's not great for public relations either.
Well, and I was gonna say that these are the same people that are granting you funds to upgrade your lift stations. And I don't know if there's ever been a situation where compliance feeds into grant funding or you know, finances, and you know, that's the other side of the coin. So this is kind of the flip side, you know, when everybody was working toward drinking water quality standards, wanting those to be put into place, and the state, you know, passed the limitations for drinking water for PFAS compounds. On the other side of that coin, they also passed a limitation on wastewater water quality standards, because that's obviously, you know, the wastewater that is being discharged eventually becomes somebody else's drinking water. And so they're trying to eliminate it at that part of the source instead of trying to remove it on the drinking water end. So in their mind, you can't have one set of standards without having the other one in place as well.
I'm just sitting here thinking about it, and it's like, you know, this whole area is contaminated. There's contaminant plumes all over the place. They move. You know, we've been hearing about this for a while, and I mean, we didn't put it there, but now we have an open-ended ticket with an unspecified amount that it could go up to clean it up. It just irritates me.
Personally, having lived with the Now Group and my wife specifically going with everything she's doing in the federal government state, you know, the state needs to come to the table. So we need pressure on them to help us. It's not the issue that we have, and yeah, there might be some little things upstream from the lagoon beyond the base. There's PFAS and PFOS in their clothing that comes out in the wash. There's, you know, soaps that we use have it in it. So frankly, I'm not ready to do anything with this. I'd like to postpone it. And I would like to make a motion to postpone and require F&V to come back with at least 3 quotes for labs and a breakdown on all the labor costs that we can review, as well as what would happen if we do just ask for an extension on September 30th.
Is there support for that motion?
I support that.
Before we take roll call, I just wanted to make a comment that this is not the first expenditure that the township has had to make with regard to PFAS, PFOS, or any of the other contaminants that we've dealt with from the Air Force in the past. I don't know how we're going to recover this down the road. I don't know what opportunity any of these municipalities are going to have, but and that is something that I think we keep talking about, how we might cross that bridge. I don't know. I'm not sure what our plan is from a township viewpoint to ever recover this, because we've never engaged an attorney or any kind of outside counsel from our township attorney to discover what those paths might be. So I just want to leave with that comment.
Okay.
And I had one question for Catherine or Elaine, either one. In the Eagle letter, it talks about the connection to the AFFF pond. I'm assuming they're talking about the infiltration beds from the AFFF by FTO2. Is that actually connected to our sewer system?
I can take that, Elaine, if you want. When we were doing that investigation and we were sampling in that area, what we found is there was a manhole adjacent to that pond that, per the prints that we have, look as if it was connected to the sanitary sewer. And there's some investigation that needs to be done in regard to that sewer line. And if it wasn't connected, even though that pond is no longer in use, the concern is that if there's stormwater, that it's pushing the material that could be in the bottom of that manhole or in that existing pipe into the sanitary sewer system. So that was the thought, is if it is in fact connected to the sewer system, that it could be disconnected from the sewer system, physically, you know, separated from the sewer system to eliminate that source.
Yeah, because I'm quite sure they found significant levels of PFAS in and around that AFFF sediment field. That's why I was surprised that we were connected to that.
One of the other things that when we did have a Teams meeting, a Microsoft, video meeting with the township supervisor and superintendent with Eagle prior to the compliance communication, we did ask that they check with the remediation division because, obviously there was a lot of investigation that started on and around the base beginning in about, 2014 14, 15. And so we didn't want them to require the township to repeat those efforts, that if there were samples that were taken in that area or of those buildings or by the wastewater lagoon or anything like that, that those wouldn't have to be repeated at this point in time in order to try to reduce the number of samples. So per our Eagle, you know, the Water Resources Division, which is separate from the Remediation Division, that they have been in communication with them. And so, you know, the sampling plan that would be submitted would be reviewed in light of that so that we're not duplicating an effort that was already done.
All right, thank you.
Okay, are we ready for a roll call then?
Can you repeat the motion? I've forgotten what the motion was again.
I'd like to postpone and require F&B to bring back 3 laboratory quotes that we can review for these services. I'd like to break down the labor and who it's going to be, what the hourly rate is. And I'd like to understand further from F&B if we choose to just ask for an extension on September 30th. What does that look like? What does that mean to us? Those were the 3 items.
Okay. All right. Roll call then.
Mr. Palmer,
No.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worsterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
No,
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
No. Motion passed. Okay, with that, then we move on to Old Orchard appropriations request.
All right, your packet contains a memo from the Parks and Recreation Director regarding outstanding bills for the park store in the amount of $23,212.74. For 2021, Fund 509-000-728.000 was originally budgeted for $48,000, and the Fund 509-000-729.000 was budgeted for $45,000. These funds were decreased each by approximately $20,000 in order to complete the payment for the shoreline erosion project. A request is being made to increase appropriations in the amount totaling $54,000 to pay the remaining invoices and complete the rest of the camping season, increasing Fund 509 fund balance to $981,776. This requires Township Board approval.
Okay, are there any questions or discussion on this?
So we lowered the budget, but they still needed the money?
Yes, it was required to pay the shoreline erosion project. I had to scrape and borrow from different funds within 509 to pay the remaining. Part of the payment for the erosion project came from capital improvement for Old Orchard Park, and the rest had to be taken from 509.
So where are we going to get the increased money from? Just out of the general fund?
No, 509 has a fund balance we can increase. Just have to be very careful.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the appropriations for Old Orchard Park in the amount of $54,000 to be split between funds 509-000-728.000 and 509-000-729.000 0.000.
Or
There's a motion by Mr. Palmer. Was it support by Mr. Sutton or Ms. McGuire? Sorry,
Ms.
McGuire.
McGuire.
McGuire, sorry. Was extremely quick. I couldn't understand. All right, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on, we move to other. We have deputy treasurer resignation with a possible appointment recommendation, which I believe we have.
So I guess that's me. Jane submitted her resignation. And I just wanted to say that that's going to be a huge loss for Oscoda Township. She brought 30 years of experience to us, and her absence is going to be felt. I appreciate her dedication over the years, and I wish her the best and happiness on our new adventure. I'm looking for a motion to please accept Ms. Hackborn's resignation as of August 20th.
So moved.
Hey, there's
I
a
will-
motion.
I will support that with a deal of regret. Jane's done a lot of work for the township and is very good at what she does. So like Jamie said, she will be missed.
Thank you, Bill.
Ms. Richards, just as
Yes.
a point of order, Jamie asked for a motion. She didn't make it. So the
Yeah, I
second-
caught that afterwards. Yep, I was gonna
Thank you.
correct
Yeah.
myself. Thank you. So there was a motion by Mr. Spencer and support with regrets by Mr. Palmer to accept the resignation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Right, motion passed. Unfortunately. So moving on, Jamie, do you have a recommendation?
I do. I sent it to the board this afternoon. I am requesting that the board approve my appointment of Vicky Helmick to the position of deputy treasurer at the starting pay of $16.10.
I
I think the only thing we can approve is the wage. We can't approve
Correct.
whether to hire her.
Right.
Correct. I'm sorry.
So you're looking for a motion to approve the wage.
Correct.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the wage as presented at 1610. I believe that information came from Shelley, the deputy clerk.
That's correct.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Sutton to set the pay in the amount of 1610 per hour. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Sorry, my mic was muted. Yep, muted. Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next on is the Beckett and Rader proposal.
Okay, you have in your packet, professional service agreement for Beckett and Reader for a 5-year Parks and Rec plan, with a not to exceed $19,400. This was budgeted for 2021. And I do believe Nicole is on the meeting if there's anything further you need from her.
Didn't we have some stuff done in the past by Beckett and Rader? And I thought that other board members had expressed on the performance. Is that, I think was it you, Mr. Palmer? We were talking about the Beckett and Rader thing and it just turned into a mess.
No, that was Spicer Group.
The Spicer Group. Gotcha.
No, Beckett and Rader has been excellent in what they've done, form-based code and other things that they've done for the township. They are probably one of the best planning people in the whole state of Michigan, John Iacongeli. And he's the one that's been working with us.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Nicole?
So basically they're going to throw together a 5-year plan and bring it to the board for approval.
Oh, it's pretty involved, actually. There's a lot of public meetings and so on.
But
This is all being done through the-
Hmm?
so the planning
This will all be
commission is going to
done.
do most of it, right?
Yes.
Yes,
And then after they do all of their public hearings and everything, then they bring it to the board and we say yay or nay.
correct.
I believe is there any, does it come back at all during the process or is it just a final?
I'm not
There's
sure of the
up
whole
and down.
process. Sorry.
There's up and down with the planning commission. There'll be many public comments during their meetings, and then they will have 2 public readings. So all of us individually as a board member can, attend those meetings as long as there's more than 3 of us,
Right.
and prevent it that way. So there's plenty of opportunity for the public and everyone to provide input.
Right.
I guess I would move to approve project number 2021055 from Beckett and Rader for a preparation of the 5-year Parks and Recreation Plan with an amount not to exceed $19,400.
Support.
Well, there's also the fee for the zoning ordinance amendments. Can we combine those two?
I don't see that.
I don't
Is that the
see that.
next?
For a total of $19,800.
19,400. It's right
Oh.
under compensation, under the description of work on the first page.
Oh, gotcha.
It just I just lumped it together for a not to exceed 19,400.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So the
Also
Parks and,
include,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, but the 19.4 is a total, but it includes the zoning ordinance.
Right.
Yep, the action plan zoning amendments for 3,400 of the 19,400 and the Parks and Recreation Plan for not to exceed 16,000.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion was by Mr. Spencer and support by,
I will support that.
okay, Mr. Palmer. Thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes,
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. Next on is requested fee schedule for property splits and combinations. Is-
Is Nancy still here? I know she was on a little bit ago. Oh, yeah, there she is. I might have to go knock on her door.
Is she the 7071?
Yes, she is.
You want me to go? You want me to go look?
I
Oh,
just
we've-
did ask to mute, but
We kicked this around at the last meeting. It's pretty much just, are we approving the $35 charge?
right. I mean, does anybody, yeah, I think we can get her for the next one, but does anybody have any questions on this? Basically, she thinks that $35 would cover the cost.
Does that include the $5 parcel fee? I was not clear in the wording in that.
I wasn't either, actually.
Go knock on her door.
All right.
No. In the interim, the way it reads to me is that they are charging us $5 for them to update that information. And we're going to pass that fee through and charge an additional $30 for our townships, employees and contractors.
Well, but if the approximation is 1 hour of work, $35, does that cover that? I mean, I'm guessing it does based on, but does it include the $5?
Right. So you're asking if it would be a $35 charge to include the $5 parcel, or is it $35 plus the $5 parcel fee?
Right. Right.
Gotcha.
So, and she's trying to star 6, but it's not doing anything. I can let her come over here and just sit at my desk for a minute if you guys want.
Yeah, I don't know. It just says ask to, I mean, I hit ask to unmute. Everybody should be blah, 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 blah. Be able to, yeah. I don't know what just happened there. Maybe it doesn't work when you have several lines. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's not the main line, it's individual. I don't know.
Oh.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Hey, Nancy.
Yes.
Okay, so the $35 would include the $5 fee to the county for the GIS maintenance.
Okay.
So what's the time for, how much time does it take you to do all of the things that need to be done for this? Is $30 sufficient to cover your time involved in this? I think was the other question.
Well, it kind of varies. Some of them are more complicated than others. You know, there are some of them that might only be a total of 40 minutes to process. Others might be an hour and a half to process. The $30 is probably a little bit on the light side, but I noticed that in the land use permits, $35 was what was charged for the majority of the land use permits.
Rock on.
No. Okay. I don't need to be seen.
All right, that's enough, you two. All right, are we ready to act on that?
I suppose I would move to incur a $35 charge for covering the county equalization department contracting the GIS parcel maintenance to fetch GIS, as well as the time for the Oscoda Township Assessor's Office.
Or
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on, we have a Northern Assessing Contract Increase Request. Nancy? Or Tammy, not sure who's going first.
Okay, so basically, as you recall, in June, the Board of Trustees granted a 10% wage increase to all of the township employees. One of the things over the 20-some years that I've been contracting the assessing office, the wages for my staff has always been earmarked to the township's pay scale. In other words, they were being paid what in the same category that they would be paid were they township employees. As you can imagine, the 10% increase to the township employees did not go unnoticed to my staff. So I am requesting an increase of $1,072 per month to cover the same 10% increase for my staff for the duration of the contract.
Where would it come from?
Well, I don't know.
Neither do I.
No, well, it's not a question for Nancy.
I wasn't really posing it to Nancy. I was just kind of tossing it out there for whoever knows to jump right in. Because I do not. Is that just out of the general
It would
fund
come-
or?
It would come from the, yeah, it'd have to come from the general fund, I think, right?
General
It would
fund
have been something
appropriations increase. Sorry.
when we were discussing and evaluating the 10% increase. It wasn't noticed or acknowledged in that discussion that this other, that the assessor's office was not actually in place, which I think we all know, but it was probably overlooked in the evaluation of the cost of the general increase. So is that right, Josh?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Okay, yeah, so.
Well, we also have F&B employees too that are contracted, that obviously we're not doing anything there.
And
But
please
that
don't forget our
contract-
firemen.
Huh?
Our
But
firemen
contract-
as well.
yeah.
Sorry.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I was only trying to respond to the point about the contracts in play for F&B. They're compensated through F&B and unrelated. It's a different position, the best I understand. They don't track, whatever Melinda's compensated is purely as an F&B employee, isn't it? It's not tied to the pay structure at the township hall like what the assessor's staff is.
And I would wager that there's a real good chance that the amount of money that we pay in F&V doesn't go directly into her pocket.
Oh, that's the correct. Yeah, right. Yeah, after seeing the amount of money we spend each month. Right. Right. So, okay, yeah, your point, Nancy, makes sense to me. I understand how that would be. Just as a question, because I don't know that I've ever asked, and this is probably a good time. So is it something in the contract that you have with the township that keeps these salaries for your staff equated to that of the staff at Township Hall?
It's nothing in writing per se, but through negotiations, and all of my contracts had been negotiated through Mr. Stalker. And one of the concepts was that if the township could do the same job as employees for less than what I was doing it for, then there would be no benefit to the township per se in having a contractor. So, so it was not possible to pay my staff more than what the township pay scale would be for the similar job, and better benefits and better insurance or anything like that, and be doing it for less than what the township could do it in-house.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion to approve an increase in the assessing contract of $1,072 per month.
Support.
I guess I just have a question. Is there, should we make sure that that's earmarked to go, I mean, not trying to sound rude by any stretch of the imagination, but that it, gets earmarked for employees? I mean, not trying, I mean.
I know what you mean, yeah. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I
know
mean,
what you mean. I get where you're
yeah,
going with that.
I feel like we should identify.
I will add on to my
Increase.
motion. I will add
Yeah.
on to my motion $1,072 per month to be noted for assessing employees.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Support. Yeah, I'd support that.
Okay, so there's a motion by
Palmer.
Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Cummings.
Yeah,
roll-
thank you.
Yep, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Sorry for the hiccup with the phone. Not sure what's
Oh.
up there.
I'm not sure what's going on there.
Okay.
But thank you for the consideration.
Okay. All right. Next on, we have police officer resignation. Tammy?
Okay, in your packet, you will find a letter of resignation from Officer Tyler Leslie, effective September 1st, 2021. He has requested an exit interview with the Township Board, and I was hoping that I could give you a few dates and possibly set that up with you.
Would this exit interview be in a closed session, or would it
Yes.
have to be public? All right.
Closed session. I spoke with Tim, and that's the way it needs to be done.
Is this something that we could
Yeah,
do at
I
the
would
next?
hope so.
Oh, sorry, Tim. Is this something we can do at the next meeting?
No, no,
It's-
no.
I was actually hoping for a little sooner. Our next meeting isn't until the 23rd, but if it's
Yeah.
not possible, we could do that.
Probably a special meeting would be best.
Could we schedule a special meeting next week for like the 11th, Wednesday?
Well, he's got, he meaning Officer Leslie, he has the 16th, the 18th, and the 19th.
Let's say Wednesday would
What does
actually
that
be the
mean?
8th.
Has what?
Or
Has what? Is he, is it available? Has what?
I'm not available on,
Availability?
I can't do the 18th or the 19th. I can do Monday though.
I
We
can
could
do
do Monday
Monday.
the 16th. Yeah. What time are we looking, in the afternoon or?
I was hoping for afternoon.
Please.
Okay.
Does that work with you, Tim? I'm,
Yeah,
other
yeah,
things,
2 o'clock. Oh, sorry, yeah. I was gonna
Tim Friel,
say,
sorry.
usually, fair enough, okay.
But I don't know. I mean, why don't you guys just go ahead and schedule that? But the concept for right now, public discussion is the issue, how to address it, doing it public or a special meeting, and the dates that Tammy's thrown out there. You guys can schedule that on your own, but the 16th, Tammy, and so that I'm on, I like I told you earlier, I may be able to make that work. It's just an important meeting to have.
Is this going to be a later in the afternoon style meeting, like 4 or 5 o'clock?
hoping for closer to
What were you
3.
thinking, Tammy?
3 or so.
Oh, you want to cut into the middle of the day? Jeez.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, Jeremy, I mean, I was really available on the 18th and 19th, but since you're not,
I mean, I guess I could remote in from where I'm going to be, but it's on the other side of the state. So I can't guarantee I'm going to have good internet, all that fun stuff.
I know you guys are wing.
We're all gonna be remoting in, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably, that's right.
So the 6th, so can everybody do the 16th, August 16th at 3 PM?
Yes.
I can,
Was that can or can't?
I can.
Can,
Thumbs
okay,
up.
all right.
Yeah, that's
Did you
fine.
say
with me.
yes, Steve?
Yes,
Okay,
I'll make it. I'll make it.
make it work, Mr. Friel. See that little smile? Please.
See my
All
middle
right.
finger?
Okay, so we need a motion to set that special meeting, please.
And don't forget the resignation.
Yep.
I'll move to accept the resignation from Mr.
Well,
Tyler Leslie.
I'll support that with regrets.
Yeah, I would like to say that I had some dealings with Officer Leslie here a few weeks ago.
Uh-oh.
I not personally. Generally don't have a lot of interaction with our police force, although they do a great job. But I did have a friend that lived out in Sidtown, and they were having some problems. There's a road that's been abandoned, and it became an issue because of the forest fire, and they were forced to evacuate. And I won't go into the whole story, but an incident happened out there involving that, and Oscoda Township Police were called. Officer Leslie responded, and he conducted himself very professionally out there with the residents. And the residents asked me to, look into it a little further. So I contacted Officer Leslie, and he went over with me everything that had happened and his information, investigation that he'd gotten. Called me a day or two later with some ideas, things out there. And so through the whole course of the entire thing, he handled himself very professionally and did an excellent job. The people out there at town were happy with, well, basically happy with his investigation, his findings. So I think it'll be a big loss to Oscoda Township to lose a police officer of his caliber. So it's with deep regrets that he's leaving our employment here.
Definitely. All right, we have a motion for Mr. Spencer, support from Ms. McGuire with regrets. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes, with regrets.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, with regrets. All right, next on, I'd like to make a motion to set a special meeting on Monday, August 16th at 3 p.m. To honor the request to discuss his departure in closed session.
I'll support that.
Okay.
Can we have the discussion about the that we were talking about earlier with the Ani Medical Clinic as well during that time, or is it not the time, Mr. Friel?
I'm guessing we should do it separate.
Yeah.
Okay, just asking.
This should be a special meeting and likely, as long as he's present and requests, we'll go into closed session.
Yes. Okay. Great. So motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is Treetop Utilities easement.
Okay, a copy of this. Jeremy, don't laugh.
I'm sorry. Are they putting the easement at the top of the tree or?
Oh, my.
Laugh happy, mister.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It just caught me funny. Go ahead. I'll be quiet.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, a copy of this easement was sent out late this evening to the board. I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to get a look at it. I spoke with Tim and he had a chance to review it as well. So basically, it has everything needed for two structures to connect to one tap. And it will basically be up to the board to decide whether to go forward with this or not.
Okay, I believe that Rick is on the phone.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, from from an engineering review between myself and then also discussion with Doug Moen, it's feasible and it meets engineering requirements. No issues there. It was just we wanted to make sure, and that's where I recommended to get Mr. Friel involved, to make sure that the easement and follow up actually recorded title instruments and stuff would be acceptable to make sure that because these are two parcels, that if the front parcel at any point in the future would be sold off, that this easement would remain in place and that the building at the rear of the property would still have sewer lead connections. So that's where we're at. And I know I was trading emails back and forth with Mr. Friel. I missed probably maybe the last couple of rounds this afternoon because I was traveling, but that's kind of where we're at. But from an engineering standpoint, it's a sound approach.
So there's going to be a.
So the easements will.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
I just,
The easements
there's,
will be recorded, go on the deed, so sorry. And there'll will not be any issues if they sell the back property or the front property, correct?
And I'll defer to Mr. Frio, but I believe that is the case, yes.
it looks like on the drawings that part of that line and that easement is actually going to be underneath where their parking lot is. Are they allowed to pave over that and all that fun stuff? It's that,
Yes, that's not a problem. I mean, they just understand that one, we don't want a building over top of it, but paved surfaces or whatever, you know, that happens quite a bit just because of site limitations. And
right.
they just realize that if there's an issue with the lead, you know, that pavement more likely than not is going to be ripped up and will have to be replaced.
So if they had put a nice asphalt parking lot in there years and years and years later, something happens and they need to dig it up, whose responsibility would it be to repair that? Would it be property A in the front or property B in the back with that has the sewer problem?
It would have to be a joint effort for the two parcels because they both share the same lead.
And so all of that information is what you're talking about putting onto the documents of the titles and all that fun stuff. So that if anybody does buy that property behind them, they're well aware that if something happens, then they need to dig up that sewer line and the people in front of them have a parking lot. They're going to be responsible for half of the repairs on that sucker.
Well, not necessarily responsible for the repairs, but they're well aware that it could be dug up and the utility would have to be replaced. And if they did sell the property, that's something as a buyer that they would have to make an agreement with before they bought.
And again, it's always, I mean, it's preferred to have separate leads because again, you run into the trouble of who caused the blockage or whatever.
Right.
But these do exist and the ordinance does allow this. We just wanted to make sure from an easement standpoint that the front parcel couldn't disconnect the back parcel. And then, like I said, those other issues would be part of, I guess I would recommend they be part of the easement and such, and working with rig land surveying. And then also I've had several discussions with Mike Russo and such as far as what should be included in that. And like I said, I just wanted to have Mr. Friel to take an opportunity to take a look at that and offer up his opinion, and I think he has. So,
Rick, what is my understanding is that the water line is on the other side of the building. Does there need to be an easement for that?
No, the water services are being connected separately.
But they would be on two different.
They're gonna be separate, but they will come into one meter pit. So there'll be no need for, I don't believe there'll be a need for an easement for those based on what I've seen on the original site plan. But I'll have to go back. That's a good point. I'll have to go back and take a look at that. But the fact that those are two separate coming into a meter pit,
because it would seem to me that the same problem could exist.
right? Yeah, you are right. Yeah, from a connection standpoint, it's not an issue. But if they ever had to service it on one parcel versus the other, they should have an easement for that also.
Yeah. Okay.
And does where it bends back towards F41 in front of the front building, is that bend going through the parking lot? Is that there for a reason, or should that sewer line just kind of come down the property line on the edge?
It's based on the best point of connecting to the sewer out front.
Okay. That's what I figured.
We want to keep it away from any other structures, and then I think there might even be some conflict with some other utilities in there. But again, Mr. Palmer, you do bring up a good point as far as going back to the site plan and that utility easement might be needed for the water also. But
Okay, so
Okay, with
Mr.
that,
Free,
I would like to,
yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Freel approved this, right?
as
Or
far as
review
the sanitary easement, that is correct,
Yes,
or the
okay.
fact that the easement being properly recorded with the properties would protect both
Will
properties.
protect, okay. All right, go ahead, Steve, sorry, I cut you off.
that's no problem. With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Top Tree utility easement for sewer use for both parcels. As
Support.
presented.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbar, support by Mr. Cummings to approve the utility easement for sewer. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. We're at 9:35. I know we haven't really resolved whether we need a motion to extend or not, but,
I'll move to extend until business is
fine.
complete.
okay.
Support.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings to extend the meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Last on the agenda is utility subcommittee creation.
I asked for that to be on the placed on the agenda for a couple of reasons. Just one of the reasons is just what we went through here recently. They've got a number of projects going on in town, and they seem to. The public is would like to have a place to come in and talk to a few board members and the superintendent without being in a full quorum. So I'd like to set up a utility/infrastructure committee that it would include contracted services to consist of 3 board members and the superintendent to help address some of the issues pertaining to infrastructure in the town and contracted services. And I would volunteer to serve on that committee as one of the board members. So with that, I'd like to make that motion.
Motion to create the committee.
Create the committee.
I'll support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Spencer to create that subcommittee for utility discussions with the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Right.
So with that, just to follow up, I'd like to put it out there. I think we'd like to get 3 board members appointed if we can, Ann.
Mhm.
Again, I would volunteer to be one of them. And again, the superintendent would be the mandatory position on that.
Okay. I would like to be on that committee myself, and I know that Mr. Palmer has gone to a couple of things, but I can't speak for him, but.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be on that committee.
If the
Okay, does
board's
anybody
okay
have a
with the 3 of
problem?
us,
Yeah, does anybody have a problem with Mr. Westerbarth, Mr. Palmer, and myself being on that committee?
Nope.
No.
With, again, the superintendent in place?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'd
no,
like to
not
make
at
a
all.
motion that the board appoints Mr. Westerbarth, Ms. Richards, and Mr. Palmer to the committee, with the superintendent being an automatic to serve on this committee.
Support.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire for the appointments to that subcommittee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, we have now completed the agenda items. Moving on to public comment then. We have somebody already with their hand raised. Tim, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello. So you have up to 4 minutes, and if you could state who you are.
Tim Galton, 115 First Street, Ascota. So I want to inquire and tell you a little bit about the application, what's going on with for the adult use. Due to the municipality's extreme short notice between setting pre-qualification requirements and accepting applications, it has become nearly impossible to meet this requirement without preemptively acting before a municipality provided such guidance. This action appears to be directed towards an exclusionary practice towards existing MMFLA operators. The board in doing this needs to recognize their error and in doing so, delay the application review period or change the submission requirements so as not to give an unfair advantage to those who are operating in other municipalities already. I've turned in my application to the state. It's a 3-month minimum process to even turn in to get adult use right now. You guys just set the process out. You didn't give any order or any way of telling us what we need to even turn in an application. I'm simply asking to turn in a special land use permit. I'm going to get approved through the state. I'm already approved for pre-qualification for medical and already a licensed medical retailer in the state of Michigan. And right now I can't even apply for an application to turn in with Oscoda Township, nor can anybody else in Oscoda, because we didn't know that it was ready to turn in yet. Nobody's told us what the needs were to turn in. I do have an application number. My application number with the state is AU-ERA-00278. This application is going through the review process as quickly as possible, but due to larger than normal volumes of applicants currently going through the process, the review times are much longer than normal. There is thousands of people going through Detroit right now that is turning application, and it is taking time to get this through. I am asking that you guys do something so that I don't lose the opportunity of getting adult use in our municipality when I'm going to be the only one operating a medical facility. And right now, operating the medical facility, we tried opening today. It didn't go so good. We had a lot of errors as far as utilities. We've been having utility problems for the past 3 weeks, and it caught us again today. But we are opening again tomorrow, and right now I don't see us pulling in a profit at a medical facility, and we're going to keep opening because my bills are going to keep coming and they're already set in motion. So whatever we can pull in is going to be a positive, whether we make money or not make money. But I just want to have the opportunity to turn in the application, and right now I don't have that opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, does anybody else have a public comment? For the second public comment.
Yes, can I go?
Yes, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
Now, yeah. The importance of that, what I was talking about earlier, reiterate that, because we don't want to remove ourselves from those opportunities for those grants. It's critical to this town and for Fertah in general. We've got a great plan, but we need access to those grants. So instead of turning this all over, you guys ultimately, as Mr. Spencer pointed out, it'll come back. But wouldn't it be far wiser to discuss all these things in a special meeting lay it all out there, what we're really giving up when we made that thing disposable. We're heading down the wrong path. We certainly are. We have grander goals for that parcel than anything mixed use will ever offer. I'll let it go on that for now, but we really got to think these things through, because the process you got going now, it's going to go to the planning committee. Beckett and Rader's going to work real hard at it. If they don't know how you stand on that, on FERTA itself, in other words, still availing ourselves to those grant opportunities, I don't know what's going to come back towards you. And that's not the process. You guys are the ultimate authority. I'm just asking you to step out and give them clear direction on it instead of waiting through the process of coming back. And that is reasonable. All we've been through with FERTA, whether it be Renovar and all that other stuff, my goodness, this town needs more of a chance than what it's been getting for FERTA. As far as it being 30 years, that's irrelevant. What it's been in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, it's still there. We haven't done anything with it. That's the problem. The problem isn't the people. You guys don't need us micromanage you, pushing you to do those things. You listed them. You gave priority. Concerning closed session, we got to get on the same page here. I'm looking at it right now, 15-268. Worcester Barthen are pretty much in agreement, but he'll speak for himself. We've read the same things. We've read the Attorney General's opinion. I believe you're getting bad advice now. I really do. And as far as going into closed sessions for this, to consider the sale of real property, there's nothing in here like this that supports any of that. And I have options from the Attorney General from the state, which I've informed this board of. I don't want to do those options. What we could do November 9th, just December 14th. I want to do that. We don't want to harm the town. We're here to win. But we need a little bit more action on these things. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, with that, I have a raised hand. Larry Holland.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
First off, I just want to commend the board for picking up the issue of social district policy. Ms. Richards, you had a question about crossing township lines. We can't cross township lines and we can't cross US highways because liquor is not allowed to be carried across US highways. I sent an email that has all of the information from the authoritative document from the MLCC regarding the implementation of a social district, the licensing and regulation affairs authoritative information, the permits that are required for the local qualified businesses after the government municipality takes action, and the Michigan Municipal League fact sheet on social districts. And I sent that to Tammy Klein, the treasurer, supervisor, and also Mr. Dickerson, so that can be taken to the EIC. This isn't about walking around drunk. This is about creating a common area that we can extend entertainment, outside seating, close off a road like half of Dwight Street, in which I talked to the 2 liquor license holders, and they both support this idea. It will likely cause 6 to 8 additional jobs because people will be servicing out in the common area. It's like a big area that people can eat, drink, and ultimately have entertainment out there. If you want to see an example of how it works, check out Alpena. Bay City has some fantastic entertainment going on almost every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's pretty cool stuff. So you can't cross over jurisdictions, you can't cross over US highways, but you can designate an area that people can carry a drink that they purchase from a restaurant or a bar out, so that they can enjoy it at one of the tables or one of the venues. It's not a free-for-all for walking all around all drunk. It's confining a common area to create an entertainment venue, which would complement the beach area and all of the other events very well. For example, a lot of people, you have to be reminded that some of the upcoming events, imagine going from your outside dinner to movie night by the pier, on Wednesday nights. Imagine, going over to bike night and listening to live music, because we already closed the street down for bike night. It's going to kind of work like that, except we can have seating and live entertainment and stuff like that out there. It's not just about walking around drinking. That's silliness. So that answers those questions. So if anybody has any additional ideas, there's some discussions going online about the social districts. Lots of people are supporting the idea because we like to have things to do. We like to have new places to walk to. We like to engage with one another outside, since there could still be a COVID risk. We need to get this done this year so that we can come out banging next year with a significant amount of entertainment and activity. So that's what I have to say about that. And good work bringing it to the agenda. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Anybody else have a public comment? Raise hand, unmute. I do not see any more raised hands. Last call for public comment. All right, moving on to board comment. Does anybody on the board wish to make a comment at this time?
I do. We have Rockfest coming up this weekend. So if anybody's in town on Saturday, we'll be at Fertile Field from 11:30 to midnight. Good lineup of bands. Hope to see everybody there. Hopefully bring 2,500 to 3,000 people to town. And it's a great fundraiser for the Veterans Memorial Park. Second thing I'd like to say is I appreciate the board being very well prepared tonight. We had a lot on the agenda, and I think we stayed on point pretty well. So thanks to everyone on the board.
I'd like to point out that I really like the idea of the social districting. I think it would be a great idea to have that ability and to set those boundaries so that people that are in town can bebop around and have alcoholic beverages. But I'd also like to point out that marijuana is legal now, and we need to get on the train of getting that done. And I understand that we don't want it downtown. Well, a lot of us do. So we need to get those things into that plan as well.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would just like to remind everybody that we're still working on the patronicity grant for the IET, the Iosco Exploration Trail Phase 3. We've only got until the end of August to raise $50,000 so that we can get a $50,000 match from MEDC. And unfortunately, we are falling behind, and we just have a few more weeks now to complete that goal. So I'm hoping that businesses out there will, if we had 50 businesses that each contributed $1,000, we would make our goal. So, but we have had other, individuals make contributions, and entities. I think right now, last I looked, we were at about $12,000. So we're coming up considerably short. So I hope we can get the word out, talk to our business owners and people in the community, and try and get up to that $50,000 mark so that we can get the state to give us an additional $50,000 to complete Phase 3 out to the Old Orchard Park. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anybody else? All right, I guess I'll just tag on to Bill's. I just was actually talking to Fred Lewis about this and gypsy moths, actually, which is a whole nother topic. But anyways, I just want to throw this out there. Obviously, I know we're trying to get funding to get up to 50 so we can get 50. I just want to throw this out to the board. Maybe we could consider bridging the gap. Whereas the township, I don't know if we'd have to look into the legality of it. I don't really even know if we could. But if we're short 10 grand or something like that, can we donate 10 grand so that we could get that $50,000 match? Because basically it's $50,000 free money towards our project. So I don't know. I just thought if we were short, maybe and I don't know if this project is shovel ready enough that we could use the those emergency fund or whatever I'm drawing a blank on the name of the funds from COVID, but
ARPA.
Yeah, there you go. But anyways, but otherwise we're going to be leaving a lot of free money on the table. So we do definitely need to push this. We somehow managed to raise $30,000 for a fishing tournament come to town. I'm thinking that we are gonna have to get out there with the businesses and see if we can get some funds raised, because we'd hate to leave the state hanging on to the money in their bank and not giving it to us, right? So anyways, that's my thought there. And again, I guess I'll go along with Rockfest. Thanks to all the volunteers and everything. I know that there's a lot that goes on to putting a festival of this kind on. I hope it's great, and I hope the weather cooperates better than last weekend, and that there's you know, a great turnout. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in town this weekend. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, 9:55. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.